everyone gets a reasonable deal out of all this. So therefore you have to take stock of how much money you have, how much is coming in the future, and then plan it out in such a way that you get them slowly, because the funds are limited, so the resources are limited, and how to get the optimum use out of that limited resources. This is what we have to plan. So then you look at first Sri Lanka, right? Because naturally when you are here, you don't have to spend that much on living expenses. And then of course there are quite a number of institutions today, government, semi-government, private, all types of institutions. Some are good, some are semi-good, some are not so good, some are bad, right? All types of, again you have to do a little bit of fact finding, right? Not just accept what the institution says. Also you have to do a little bit of CID work to find out, maybe talk to students, talk to lecturers and things like that, and then think of something that is suitable along with the qualifications that your son or daughter has. So then the qualification, of course the institution will be stipulating to say that we need so much from O levels or so much of A level qualification, and then we can take you in. Similarly, if you are going directly into international institution, they also will have their entry criteria laid down from country to country, from exam to exam. London A level so much, Sri Lankan A level so much, international baccalaureate so much, so like that. So you will have to then see how best you can fit into that, and then how long is the course going to be, 2 or 3 years. Diploma would be 2 years, degree would be 3 years, if it is medicine or engineering can be 4 or 5 years, law can be 5 years. So that means the cost of funds going to for each year as tuition, then how much are we supposed to spend on living, all this has to be assessed. And then comes another requirement of each country's requirements where the governments are concerned. How much money have you got to have in the account, and then how have you got to earn it, how long have you got to keep it, right? All those questions also have to be answered. That again will vary from country to country.
So now don't be puzzled, because this is a very big process, and for those who are watching, you can meet up with the gentleman at Aspirations Education and discuss further a counseling program and get all the details as to what needs to happen, what about the visa procedures, the regulations of the countries, as you said, Mr. Abeysekera. So it's a big role. So there's nothing to be afraid of. All you got to do is make an appointment and go and see the wonderful people at Aspirations Education. Coming back, Mr. Abeysekera, compared to the accreditations and the recognition of the qualification, in the Sri Lankan context and the foreign certifications, what's the difference? Is there an advantage or a disadvantage?
Exactly, in the sense like all our national universities are fully accepted by any university outside Sri Lanka, right? It is as good as any other qualification. So, I mean, people who have graduated from here only have gone to Yale, Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, right? So, there is nothing less in Sri Lanka. The unfortunate situation is that most of them cannot get in there because of this severe competition, which tends to make people very selfish, right? And very self-centered, which is what I think we have seen during the last, say, our generation and maybe this generation, where it becomes a little more narrowed down. So that is one thing that I do not like. But other than that, the quality of education is, of course, the teaching methods are quite different compared to Sri Lanka and abroad, where how they lecture, or how the assignments are done, and what type of application is there. So those are things that actually, I mean, one might learn when they go abroad rather than here. The second thing is, now the acceptance wise, like once you qualify from a reasonably good university, I mean, you don't have to always go to the very top. If you can, by all means go in, but if not, the middle level or even the lower level, the thing is, when you say lower level, it's not that it's really low, but then maybe due to various types of what you call classifications, right? Now the Times Guide, then the Guardian and all that, they take various factors into account. The research content, the accommodation provided, then how many sort of the academic levels of whether how many PhDs are there. So like that only this guide is handled. So there are some universities which are ranked lower, but actually their faculties practically is very good. Some of them are even better than the top ones. But so I don't think you should get too much guided by these rankings, because the rankings are done on various bases. So I think what you should first realize is what course am I going
Okay.
to, right?
Okay.
What do I like to do?
Okay.
And also, just because I like to do something, is there a pathway forward where when it comes to income and gainful employment? So that also has to be balanced with your life. But if you can get something where you like, and then there is a career pathway, that would be the best. I
Mr.
mean,
Abeysekera, when you mentioned about getting income on your qualification,
yes.
In Sri Lanka, even our own
Yes.
pass outs from the
Yes.
university,
Yeah.
our graduates
They are
and
not
graduates,
recognized enough.
it's not recognized enough. There's unemployment still. What's
Yeah,
the
one
issue
thing,
with
of
this?
course, is now the story that we always hear is that, of course, I mean, they are not focused enough, or they are not being, so that they are not practical enough, not hands-on enough to come in, especially with the private sector. And also there is a tendency in the majority of our students, I think most of them are actually rural based also,
Yeah.
that they should get into government service,
Okay.
right, where they are given a pension, and then in the village or their rural areas, they are recognized more as a government servant than as working for some company. Though the company may be big in terms of the urban situation, it may not be that much recognized in a village or in a maybe a town type of area. So this is all, I mean, each man's mindset. But the thing is, why the private sector always says it, that they are little sort of, the thing is, I think that self-confidence matters a lot in this. This is where I think when the student goes abroad and comes back, right, not that there is a lot of big difference between the degree, but the man has gone through the mill, so to say. He has to struggle and work hard to survive there, and that in the process he sees other people from various other countries, right? So I always say that.
So you mean to say that
the exposure and the
exposure, the where you go through the mill, a very important thing you said, and comparison to our system, it's all free.
That's correct.
It's all free,
I think,
and
yeah,
you know,
it's not
it
appreciated very
makes all the time you make the person dependent.
Exactly.
So
I will just cite this situation. Now see a student who has come through all this and finally ends up with the degree. Then they continue to ask the government to give them employment, and they say that we have to right? So this is what, I mean, they demand, right? Now, have they ever thought the guys who got off O levels, right, and the ones who couldn't get to into the university, who is going to look after them? Right? Then the state has a bigger responsibility to look after those people, to get them employed. Otherwise, they go astray, and that becomes a huge national problem. Whereas the student who has come right to they are supposed to be the cream of this country. They have been given free education right up to the very end, to the degree, which no other country.
#151# අමතන්න. Mobitel Smart Recharge Bonanza.
They demand that you have to find a job after that. If we are going to find the job for those, then what about those hundreds of thousands of people? I mean, I think we have a bigger duty to support them than these people whom we have already brought up. It is there. Now, they don't have that self-confidence to find their own, or maybe look at a job or start their own small thing, right? Now, this is where I think a major problem is in Sri Lanka, whereas the student who has gone abroad, or the foreign students, basically are more equipped with self-confidence more than anything else. They are ready to try out. And I think they have the self-confidence to express themselves. They are better at, I think, grappling situations where they have seen so many things happening.
Right. So, Abeysekera, it's a common mindset of any rational person. Why you send your child overseas for higher education is certainly for greener pastures. But since of late, has it become a fashion, or has it become a status symbol to send your kid there?
Well, it's, I think, a mix. There are the students who are actually genuinely interested in studying, and then they see that the foreign education gives them quite a lot of exposure, right, and avenues, and they can go deeper into the field. But there is what you said also, that Sri Lankans generally like to enter into a race, right, of some sort, a competition, we say, right? They always talk about competition. So when you enter the competition, naturally you have to look at the next door person, where he has gone, or my own first cousin or someone where he has gone. So it's a intra-family competition, as well as what do you call the inter-neighbor competitions and various other competitions. And therefore, you just try to send someone somewhere without really assessing your financial capabilities. And in the process, you can sort of get your child into serious trouble. Because if you are unable to go through the whole program, suddenly you have to give up halfway, and the child sort of basically waste of money, and I mean psychologically he will be under special terrific trauma thereafter. So that is where I think the parents have to come in to see exactly how they should plan it, not just because someone else has done something, but what is my child good at, and then where can I start, and how should he proceed, and therefore can I fund him through that whole process. And if that can be looked at the beginning without getting too much sort of getting into the so-called competition. But actually if you enter the competition, only that you are in a competition. If you don't enter the race, well, there is no race for you, right?
Mr. Abeysekera, to achieve the